The Scholastic Book Fair was one of the more bittersweet things from my childhood. One day, it's a reward for getting high marks on my report card. On another day, it was the school yearly reminder of how personally poor I was. It wasn't the school daily reminder, though. Those were the vending machines. Whatever the occasion, though, the Scholastic Book Fair was always a sight to behold. For a moment, my school gym transformed into a hub of books, boards, and a ton of trinkets. For a time, Pokemon went from cards argued about on lunch tables into books available right inside the school. It was the ideal place to purchase a Diary of a Wimpy Kid book and wonder if Dork Diaries was a girly version of Jeff Kinney's books. Was it just me? There was also Captain Underpants, bendy pencils, calculators that smelled like food, and other things whose novelty likely ran out the day after you bought them. Except for the Pet Tornado. That thing was stitched to my mind the day I saw it, and even now, I think that this toy rocks. I didn't get anything for a big portion of my visits, but I usually wasn't even mad. It was a fun thing to just look at. Although I think maybe there was a small part of me that believed that if I walked around looking all left out and poor, that some guy from the goodness of his heart would give me some cash and help me buy good edifying literature like the Pokemon Ultimate Handbook and The Last Straw. That never happened. And since I mentioned literature, I think it's a good time to move on to the main meat of this video, the books. The first book that made me an enjoyer of the fair was Pokemon World of Sinnoh. It's a handbook that guides readers through Season 10 of the Pokemon anime through concise summaries of 51 episodes, pictures, information about Pokemon, and more. It might be a cheap marketing book to kids, but it was absolutely valuable in making me the person I am today. When I was around 6, I got introduced to the Pokemon anime by Diamond and Pearl Episode 4, towards its ending. I didn't really understand the context at all, and my little heart was broken once Pikachu knocked his pretty Roselia out. Even when I later got a used copy of Pokemon Diamond around age 7, it was likely action replayed. I didn't understand where I was, how battling really worked, or even care much about this whole apparent mess. But World of Sinnoh helped change that, and turned these sprites that I fainted into appealing characters that caught my young eyes. I remember looking at the pages like the one with Shinx before my dad basically said, let's just get it. From then on, I had enough context to get into the Pokemon anime, understand my region, and grow an attachment to the Pokemon franchise that exceeded my previous loves of Thomas and SpongeBob. The format of the handbook should not be underestimated. It's because of Apollodorus that we have glimpses of the earliest prose writers who chronicled Greek mythology. This simple book managed to become a standard of what heroic Greek myth was, from Photius to Robert Graves. The guy who helped popularize the term myth in modern usage made an edition of said handbook with notes. These compendium handbooks should not be overlooked. They could change lives in permanent ways every time they're displayed. What might have been a paycheck to Simcha has turned into over 1,000 hours and hundreds of dollars spent dedicated to a single franchise. Even after I've gone to places like Elfland, Middle-earth, Greece, and the British Isles, the land of Sinnoh is something that will probably be near my heart for the rest of my life. If these kinds of books got you to Pokemon from Generation 4 to about Generation 7, it's probably about high time that you give her your flowers. So, thank you, Mrs. Whitehill. Thank you. Another book that has been influential to me was Hollow Fields. It's a manga about a young girl named Lucy Snow who comes to a new place called Noelsville, intending to go into an academy for young girls. After getting lost in a forest, however, she finds a spooky-looking school. After being almost destroyed by the school's security, Lucy becomes acquainted with the schoolmate Miss Notch, who introduces her to the school's interior. Attracted by the offer for room, a private bath, and no school fee, Lucy signs a contract to attend Hollow Fields. Little does she know, however, that every week the student with the lowest grades is sent to an old windmill, where they never return. Not long after, Lucy comes to realize that Hollow Fields is a school intended to bring a new generation of mad scientists. And because of her contract, she has to keep attending. She has to make herself useful one way or another. For likely my first foray into manga, this volume really did its job. It has great art, an endearing main character, a cast of odd but memorable school staff, mystery, stakes, and even a showcase of development designs and fan art. I'm no connoisseur of manga, but man, for $3, I got bang for my mother's buck. I want to take a moment to talk about the manga's use of gears and machines that might give off vibes of steampunk. While I don't deny this manga was probably made at least partially to capitalize off the late 90s to 2000s steampunk trend, I don't think the art succeeds because it may be catered to steampunk. I think the art succeeds because the possible steampunk served the story. The aesthetic works to highlight how different the school is from the rest of Lucy's world, not only in its technology, but also in morality. They visually tell the viewer that Lucy is alienated in this cold environment and is not supposed to be there. It's notable that Lucy doesn't encounter these gears until she gets lost in a forest, and the machine they're attached to resembles a garden gnome. Could this manga be rewritten to be about survival in a magical but malicious Fae school? I don't fully know. I've only read the first volume, but I think it's a great sign of a solid story when its elements can be told in a variety of appearances but still fundamentally work. Your story shouldn't serve the aesthetics, it's the other way around. Whatever the case, I've got to commend Manly Waska for her excellent character designs, expressions, and of course, the setting of Hollow Fields. As I'm writing this manga's pretty obscure. I mean, a big chunk of the videos on it are over 10 years old. I even watched this review about a decade ago, and it's still around the top search results on YouTube. It's sad to see such a good piece of art lost in the flux of culture. But if this video has interested you in the manga in some way, then I recommend checking it out. Regardless of how popular this video gets, it has likely stamped itself into my imagination. For better or for worse.
My name's 50% because I spend 50% of my time killing peeps like you. Name's Jovan. Well, Jovan,
you must die!
The third book I want to highlight is the Guinness Book of World Records 2012 Gamers Edition. I'm honestly not sure how I got my mom to get this, considering that from what I've watched, the Guinness books seem to be the top luxury items in the fair, but somehow I got it. My grades must have been really good. Well, even by this time, I was into learning about games through the internet. This book did a lot to expand my horizons on just how big gaming was, not only in terms of numbers, but also in the different aesthetics games could take. Granted, I likely skimmed over a lot of pages that didn't have cartoony visuals or Nintendo, but now in retrospect, I think it's pretty cool the book mentioned Child of Eden, Rez, and even a story where a Polish prime minister gave a copy of The Witcher 2 to Barack Obama. Do government leaders even do stuff like this anymore? Please let me know in the comments. Something that I also appreciate about this book in retrospect is how valuable it is in being this time capsule of what the gaming scene was shortly before feminist frequency and Gamergate made the conversation focus a lot more on gender, race, and politics, while The Last of Us made the medium focus more on cinematic narratives and aesthetics, and maybe low-key trying to fight against Roger Ebert's opinion that gaming was an art. While I'm certainly not against the idea of a piece of art tackling politics, as a veteran from the Gamergate controversy, I think using gaming as your soapbox over and over again risks the medium forgetting its roots. Let's not forget that gaming didn't get out of its 1983 crash because of some mind-blowing text-based game, but because of Nintendo essentially marketing the NES as a toy that the family could play with on the TV with a robot. The heart of modern gaming doesn't lie in wannabe film directors baking on motion capture to make sure that their characters' facial expressions look just right. It lies in tech nerds in humble rooms using their talent to create fun things that jump or go boom. Normal people don't go to Mario games for the same reason people go to the painted haystacks of Claude Monet. You usually won't experience the deep and intimate connections of color, light, nature, and more in the former, but you also can't be a plumber from Brooklyn that blows up a giant evil turtle in the latter. It's one thing to be annoyed at folks being dismissive and very antagonistic towards games, but to be genuinely embarrassed or angered that people don't treasure Halo the same way people treasure the Divine Comedy betrays something bad interiorly that I think should be examined. Speaking of examination, there's still a question I want to answer. Do I miss the Scholastic Book Fair? While I wouldn't be opposed to browsing through the fair again, I don't really miss it. While books like World of Sinnoh have undoubtedly helped change my life, I'm a person who's more focused on understanding God and my neighbor and nourishing my imagination through religious writings, folktales, mythology, poetry, and more. I don't think it's fair to just throw my soul's desire for meaning, happiness, and fulfillment onto Dogman. We Zoomers are not kids anymore. We should be focusing more on where we are, where we come from, where we're going, and even why we're here. To demand Pokemon Platinum to basically answer these questions or distract us from them as long as possible really isn't fair either to the game or to you. From the videos I've watched and the comments I've read, I think people don't really miss the fair itself as much as what the fair represented. I don't get the impression that people really miss the generic posters or the novelty trinkets. They miss the context in which you and your friends could get excited together for a school event that turn your gym into a place filled with wonder and weirdness, and to buy things that took you on adventures, make your interests feel celebrated, or let you have fun. However, nothing about friendship, wonder, or adventure are exclusive to the Scholastic Book Fair. If you want an adult life filled with meaning, you're going to have to take initiative. Go out to events hosted by your local library. Go to a book club. Go to your local parish. Go buy a soda at a place you've never been to. Or go to a used bookstore and buy a book you've never heard of. I'm not telling you to risk your life and fight a skinwalker, but if you want a life that has some aspect of wonder and adventure, you're going to have to make some sort of effort regarding habit and discipline. While various rich people are far from paragons of virtue, that doesn't give you a free pass on your own sins. I made another video about what I do when it comes to how I spend my time and ways on how you can use your time as well. Yet, I understand if you're hesitant to change your routine because you live paycheck to paycheck. However, if you're so lacking in time and money that you can't buy a used book, then I'm curious why you're this far in a video made by a grown man who pretends to be a cartoon fox on the internet. Even with all I've said, I am grateful for the Scholastic Book Fair. It made buying books a wonderland, and that's not a small feat when it's competing against screens. Another likely reason I don't miss the book fair is because my room is essentially a 24/7 book fair itself. Granted, I haven't read most of these books, and I likely should have been more prudent in my spending, but I hope you guys can join me on this journey of entertainment and art to hopefully reach heaven. If this video has given you something to chew on, then please like, comment, subscribe, and give me money.